And we are live. Welcome. I am joined by Pox Populi, and we're going to talk about events from yesterday in Dublin. And I'll just give a bit of background, and then I'll bring Pox in to give information, what he found out and what he saw when the story was breaking. I saw it late last night. I was coming out of work and I took out my phone. The Twitter page had been open that morning, so when I clicked on the Twitter page, it refreshed, and my feed was full of tweets about children being stabbed. And some of the tweets were saying 5 children had been stabbed in Dublin, and then other tweets were saying 3 children and 2 women. And then there were more tweets saying one of the children had very serious injuries and was fighting for his or her life. And I continued scrolling down, and then new tweets appeared, and it was giving information about riots in the city centre. It was saying Dublin was on fire. And I started seeing lots of images and some video clips as I walked home. And when I got home anyway, I went onto YouTube and I searched. I just put in Dublin and searched by the latest results, just to see if anyone was streaming or whatever. And typical, you get all the the mainstream media YouTube channels appearing, even if you search by most recent. And I scrolled down, and I finally came to one that didn't look like it was a news channel, and it was some guy, but he was actually streaming Garrod Murphy's stream. And I thought to myself, that's, why don't I just go to the source? So I went to Garrod Murphy's channel and followed his stream. I just thought there was something about this guy piggybacking off Garrod Murphy's stream that kind of pissed me off a bit, because Garrod Murphy was in the thick of it, and this guy was just streaming his stream. So anyway, yeah, I didn't watch all of Garrod Murphy's stream, but I watched bits of it, and you got a sense of how serious it was. And I was thinking to myself, I was thinking about those kids, and I think it happened outside, was it a nursery or a creche, whatever. So they would have been very young. Obviously, they would have been terrified, and the women would have been terrified. And I was thinking, this type of thing is happening due to government policy, due to EU policy, due to globalist policy. Children in Ireland are no longer safe, not even in daylight. And I just spoke to Pox there a few minutes before we come on, just to confirm when this happened. And we're fairly sure it happened when it was still bright outside. So yeah, women and children are no longer safe in modern Ireland. And Aisling Murphy would have been a prime example of that. She who was slain by a foreigner who shouldn't have been there, a guy who was living in the country for 10 years, had convictions in other jurisdictions, but somehow managed to come to Ireland and just loaf around for a decade, and then kill a young Irish woman who was starting to make a life for herself. So yeah, it seems that people can no longer go about their normal business in Ireland. It's not the Ireland I grew up in, an Ireland that was homogenous and was high trust. And now I shall bring in Pox Populi. Pox, what do you make of this?
Well, how are you, Btwixt? Thanks for having me on again. It seems like most of our conversations are usually in the wake of some new atrocity in a European country. And I'm sitting here having this conversation with you because I'm half Irish. I care what happens in Ireland. I have lots of Irish friends like yourself. And so here we are talking about what happened in Dublin, but this could just have easily been a conversation that I would be having with Frenchmen, because in this same week, just a few days ago, there was another stabbing of European children, but it happened in France this time. A gang of North Africans and some of their Asian friends descended upon the town of Crépol, which was having its winter festival, a local festival celebrating, I think, something like even the foundation of the town or something like that. Small village, I think it has fewer than 1,000 inhabitants. And these North Africans came armed with axes and 20-centimeter knives, and they shouted, "We are here to kill white people." And they stabbed a 16-year-old boy to death. His name is Thomas. He and his rugby teammates tried to defend their town, their neighbors, their friends and family from these roving barbarians. It's like something out of medieval times. Think of a medieval themed movie. You've got the local villagers celebrating their festival, and then all of a sudden the bad guys come galloping down the hills to slaughter them. That's where we're at now. And then just days after that, it happens in Ireland. Like you, I open Twitter, and the first thing I see is a tweet from Michael O'Keefe saying, "I can pretty much confirm that a foreign national has stabbed several children in a school in Dublin." And this is just a part of a long list of things that has been occurring in Ireland lately. I mentioned the incident in France. We know what happens all over the continent. We know what happens in France. We know what happens in England. We know what happens in Germany and in Sweden. What we're seeing in Ireland is what happens when the frog isn't boiled slowly. This is like hot water being poured over a frog that was sitting pretty, minding its own business, not really doing anything to anyone else. But the speed, the pace at which Ireland is being destroyed by its corrupt political class and the detritus that is being imported into Ireland is unbelievable. And I'm actually going to be in Ireland very soon. The missus and I, we've been planning a trip to Ireland because of COVID restrictions and all the years of that, vaccine requirements and other obstacles in my life. It's been a few years since I've been to Ireland. I used to go there very often, and it'll be my girlfriend's first time, actually. And so she knows what I do. She knows the work that I do. She knows the grim stuff that I see and then talk about and try to combat any way that I can through the propaganda war. But as we've been planning this trip, she has been paying attention a bit more to what's going on in Ireland. And I've been sharing with her a bit more of what's going on in Ireland. And as we've been looking at the news coming out of Ireland, we've been aghast to see. We had an African stabbing a man at Dublin Airport. There was a report from a Shannon man reporting that foreign men almost kidnapped his child. There was a woman sexually assaulted by foreigners on the Luas, on the Dublin public transport. We've had a woman sharing a story of how she was sexually harassed walking through a park in Kerry. Then there was the aftermath of the trial of Aisling Murphy's killer. And then we had the stabbing of children in Dublin. And it's got to the point now where my girlfriend, who's never stepped foot in Ireland, is actually afraid to go there. We have to rethink our trip. So to any of the Irish politicians who might be listening to this at some point, maybe one day, or any of the Irish progressives who are sitting in listening to this, if you don't care about the Irish people, maybe at least you might care about the damage being done to the image of Ireland, the damage that is being done to the tourism economy, the tourism sector. In one fell swoop, in a matter of a few short years, you lot have destroyed the country in ways that we can't even fully understand yet. There is blood all over your hands. Know that. Understand that. And if your political ideology requires that a people who survived 800 years of occupation and numerous attempts at their annihilation must now today watch as their children are stabbed, raped, murdered, and once again their land is being taken over by foreigners, then you need a new ideology. Enough is enough. We aren't going to take it anymore. We're not going to take your gaslighting, your telescopic empathy. Irish lives matter, European lives matter, white lives matter, and get out of our way if you don't agree with this. I'll leave it there for now.
All right, very well said. Yeah, so the question is, can the Irish state provide safety and security for the Irish? The answer is no, they cannot. And what's more, it is the Irish state that is ensuring that Irish people become a minority in an ever more dangerous Ireland. I would say in an ever more law of the jungle. So you're going to see, as things continue, you're going to see more of what happened last night. I don't condone burning vehicles and burning buildings and all that. But, you know, the Irish state seems to be at war with the Irish people. So as we go forward, we're going to see more and more of what happened last night. I noticed from Gareth Murphy's stream that most of these people out protesting, they're from the working class. You know by their accents, they're from the working class. And this is a class war as well. I have noticed very much this is a class war. People from, I would say, the higher end of the middle class, they despise the Irish working class. And they care more about optics than they do about Irish children being able to come out of school without having their throats slit. These are the horrible people we have living amongst us. They absolutely despise the working class. And it is the working class who are not going to, shall I say, genuflect and offer obsequious smiles to the state when the state is making their lives more difficult and more perilous. Back to you, Pox.
Well, yeah, there are some things in this world that only an intelligent person could be dumb enough to believe. And we do see on so many occasions the educated classes, the journalists, the politicians, they are the ones that have poured the hot water all over the frog that was just minding his own business. And there is a disdain for the working class. There's also just a general disdain for European people, for white people. There is an elevation, an almost adoration, a worship of the foreigner, particularly the brown and the black foreigner. And there is this fetish that the lives of Irish children don't matter, the lives of Irish people don't matter, the lives of French children don't matter. I know people in France that actually did not hear of the attack in Crépole until I told them about it, until they saw me posting about it. Think of that. 10 or so North Africans attack a village with axes and knives, stab and murder children, and people living in the country don't even know about it. They only find out because some lowly telegrammer is posting about it. Our lives clearly don't matter to these people. And you mentioned the Irish state. You know, the Irish state and the Irish media class, yeah, they are at war with the Irish people. This is a state that despises its own people. I mean, Oliver Cromwell must be looking up at Ireland in astonishment, but also admiration at this treacherous political class. And, you know, we keep hearing about the far right, the far right, the far right. And the usual media bastards and the political bastards are going on and on about the far right racist. Let us all remember that they called mothers pushing prams the far right a few months ago. Actually, almost a full 12 months when the East Wall protests began. A full 12 months ago. Those mothers pushing prams were called the far right. Those mothers pushing prams with their toddlers in the prams were saying, our streets are not safe for our children. These policies have endangered our children. Please listen to us. And they were dismissed as far right and racist. Those mothers are looking pretty fucking prescient now, aren't they? And I'm sorry for swearing.
I think you're allowed to swear, given the situation, you know, we find ourselves in. So, yeah.
And again, with the far right thing, it's unbelievable. Ireland doesn't have a far right. Okay, every Irish person that I know, all my friends that we've had political discussions, most Irish people are quite liberal, progressive, open, tolerant, all of these hollow virtues that we've been taught to uphold. And even my Irish friends and acquaintances who kind of look at the situation that's going on and think, yeah, there's some problems here. I think maybe the immigration thing might be going a bit too extreme. But they're always quick to add, but you know what? It's not all of the immigrants. Look, the Poles are fine. I've got some Polish friends. They're good crack, good people. They always are quick to add some positive note. So this idea that there's just these Irish far right, and then again, like traditionally speaking, the definition of, you know, what it means to be far right, because nowadays we just use words and they have no more meaning. We don't think about the meaning of these terms anymore. And, you know, far right is one of them. Well, for me, being on the right is more than just being a nationalist. It's more than just wanting your nation state. There's other parts of it. There's other pillars of being on the right. And many people in Ireland don't lean against those pillars, let's say. So this idea that Ireland has a far right is just a joke. What Ireland has are Irish men and women who love their people, who love their country, and want their country to be put first. And if that makes them far right, then Pierce was far right, Collins was far right, Bobby Sands was far right. This rhetoric has to stop. These accusations, the smears, the indifference, the willful ignoring of people who are saying enough is enough. These policies are destructive. This ideology is destructive. The wide variety of restaurants are not worth slain children. Please listen to us. And they've been ignored. They've been insulted. They've been smeared. What other recourse do they have then? What do you expect, you Irish politicians, you journalists, you progressives, you who put the Palestinian flag in your bio? Palestine for the Palestinians, fine. Ireland for the Irish, hate speech? Ireland for the Irish, as long as you're saying that to a Brit. Brits out, everyone else in? What is this? What is this?
You mentioned hate speech, Pox, and right on cue, I saw a few tweets coming out at lunchtime. The Irish Prime Minister is saying that, you know, they have to bring in hate speech because of the pandemonium from last night, the rioting, etc. And just before we came on, we spoke briefly about how the children, the victims in this carnage, in this horrendous deed, have been swept under the carpet. I'm not hearing anything about the victims from mainstream media. All I'm hearing is that a bus was set alight and that you had far-right hooligans marching around the streets of Dublin. But I'm not hearing anything about the attacker. I'm not hearing anything about the women and children. I haven't heard whether that child pulled through or not. I don't know how many people are critical. I have very little information. And all the mainstream media seems to be talking about is a few bonfires, you know.
Oh yeah, it's all about the oh, I feel bad. Think of the backlash to the poor child stabbing community. That's what we're getting from the Irish media. That's what we're getting from my X feed is chock full of people who I don't follow. Just randos and journos wringing their hands, gaslighting the Irish people, gaslighting the world, because the world's eyes are on Ireland. And you should see how media outside of Ireland is also reporting on this. They're not mentioning the stabbings at all. They're not mentioning the stabber or his origins at all. It's basically just like the story is all of a sudden Irish people are burning down Dublin for some reason. And you're right. If it wasn't for, anons on X and Telegram, what information would we have? What information would we have? I just found out, thanks to, again, Michael O'Keefe, one of them, and some other users on X, that the Brazilian savior story is, let's just say politely, a bit of an embellishment, and that the actual hero is an Irishman by the name of Warren, who put his life in great danger and has the slashed jumper to show it. No one's talking about him. I saw a screenshot of his wife, looks like she was posting on Facebook, saying that she's sick of this Brazilian getting all the credit. No, it was her husband who tackled the guy, fought with the guy, and nearly got sliced open for it. It's just the lies of omission, the gaslighting, the manipulation of information, the narratives. It all has gone on far too long. And again, people who live in France, people who are familiar with the situation going on in France, are used to this now. Just across a little body of water, people who live in England are used to this. This has been going on for a long time. In Germany, it's been going on. In Italy, this has been going on for a long time. I can't tell you, I can tell you that not a day goes by where I don't see some story of, and sometimes the stories are incredible, of a North African, a Maghrebi, a Sub-Saharan, an Afghan living on Italian taxpayers' money in a quote-unquote asylum center, who leave the asylum center during the day, mug a few people in the streets, rape a woman here, sexually assault a woman there, and then just walk back to the asylum center for another free meal. This is what's in our countries. And for many people on the European continent, this has been going on for quite some time indeed. But what's going on in Ireland, it's like, mate, I was just, like I said, it's been a few years since I was in Ireland, but a few years ago, it wasn't even this bad. I mean, I know that it has got bad because I pay attention to what's going on. And the speed, the velocity of the destruction, the decline of Ireland, it's just unbelievable. It's like Ireland is trying to play catch up with the worst ideas. And for what? Please, someone tell me, what is the benefit to all of this? What is the benefit to the Irish people? Don't tell me that, oh, it's the diversity of food. That's not worth it. That's not enough. The great exchange of cultures. Really? What is the great cultural exchange that you're having with a Somali? Oh, learning new languages. Really? Are you learning a new language? What's the sub-Saharan language that you're learning? Tell me. And please explain to me how it's worth, or how it tips the scales in its own favor compared to stabbed children, murdered young women, Irish becoming minorities in their only homeland, which they fought for 8 centuries to keep a hold of. Tell me, anyone, someone please tell me. Because all of your fucking virtue signaling is hollow and meaningless.
Well, the Irish government is bussing in military-aged men around the clock, it seems. Every day, I see someone reporting on a building being refurbished, and then the next day, a coach pulls up and 40 military-aged men get out. And the accommodation just so happens to be right beside a girls' secondary school or something like that. They're putting them not in the cities, well, I'm sure they are in the cities as well, but they seem to really want to put them in rural villages and towns. And this is like what happened in Germany back in 2015, 2016, where you'd have a German village, maybe 900 people, and overnight the Germans would become a minority in their own village. And this is what's happening now in Ireland. And getting back to that story, because I saw that when I was walking home last night, I saw they were saying some guy he'd saved, well, we won't know yet if he saved all of them, but he managed to stop the attacker, the stabber. And this morning then I saw these progressive journalists, and I don't follow them, but the same as what's happening to you on Twitter or X. Suddenly they're just everywhere. You're getting these progressivists, and they're tweeting, and they can actually turn it completely. They can do a 180. And I saw one of them. He tweeted out, "Irish citizen attacks kids and is stopped by immigrant."
That's unbelievable. That is.
And I was thinking,
despicable.
because they're saying that, and this is all speculation, because this is nobody knows yet, but some people were saying this guy is a citizen of Ireland. Some people are saying that he's been here a long time. But if you read that, let's say you're in America somewhere, and you go online or you pick up a newspaper and you see that headline, you already have this idea in your head that some crazy Irish guy, if it hadn't been for the immigrant, the migrant, whatever, the Irish guy would have killed loads of people, So it just shows you how horrible these people are, that they don't care about the kids. It's all about the optics.
Yeah, and they
changing the
accuse
optics.
us of not caring about the kids. These accusations go back and forth. It's so funny to see people who are accusing immediately, the far right of trying to politicize the issue, when they're the ones that do it themselves. And without fail, almost every single person who was on social media, every single politician, every single journalist, every single random anon, whatever, who was smearing the Irish people who are fed up with this, and who was calling it a violent riot, without fail, every single one of them, if you go to their tweets in 2020, they're all in support of the Black Lives Matter, mostly peaceful quote unquote protests of that year. So I mean, it's just, we know if these people didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. But what you're pointing out too is just the complete absurdity and failure of passport nationalism, of paper nationalism. And we have a lot of people, even on our side too, our side of these things, who, for one reason or another, they really focus on the illegal immigration and tepid right-wing, quote-unquote right-wing, centrist conservative political parties and politicians will also focus on the illegal immigration. But that's actually not the problem. And people really need to get wise to this. The problem isn't just illegal immigration. In fact, the bigger problem is legal, quote unquote, legal immigration. And I guarantee you, I can assure you, that in the halls of Brussels, politicians are working every day, bureaucrats are working every day, and in the offices of the NGOs, they are working every day to make what is considered illegal immigration now legal in a very near future. And this argument that mass immigration is grand because the Algerian who was stabbing kids was stopped by a Brazilian isn't the win you think it is. And saying, well, the Algerian who was stabbing kids came here legally isn't the win you think it is. Because we want all of it to stop. Legal immigration needs to come down in order to maintain the demographic health of the Irish population, the Gaelic population, and from certain areas of the world, it needs to stop completely. Because the forced mixing together of different peoples, who by definition bring different culture, is a failure, and it is not worth it anymore. The wide variety of restaurants is not worth it anymore. We have children fighting for their lives. To the people who are listening, I don't want to preach to the choir anymore. We all know this. I want to know what is wrong with the heart or the mind of someone who cannot understand this and just has these knee-jerk insults, the far right, dumb racists. In our own lifetimes, this would have been unheard of just a few years ago. I have Irish friends who never even saw a black man in person until about 5 years ago. Okay? This idea that anyone can be Irish, Ireland has to open its doors and has international obligations to take up. No, it's all bullshit. And just a few short years ago, many of the people who are insulting us have had just the same kind of worldview. They wouldn't even have been on their mind. So really, I can't stress this enough. There's blood on the hands and blood on the knife of the person who stabbed those children. And there's blood on the knife and there's blood on the hands of the African who was having a bad day. So he went to Dublin Airport and stabbed a man. There's blood on the hands of the man who killed Ashling Murphy. There's blood on the hands of the man who decapitated the two Irishmen in Sligo, asking them, "Are you Irish? Are you sure you're Irish?" before he murdered them. They all had blood on their hands, that much we know. But at this point also, everyone who is in favor of open borders, everyone who has ever posted the hashtag Ireland for all, everyone who has ever said that anyone can be Irish, everyone is welcome here, and then has gone on to smear those of us who are saying this is a bad idea and is already having disastrous consequences. The blood is on your hands too. Look at them. Look at your hands. You've got blood all over them.
You mentioned multiculturalism. And if you think about it, in the world, there are many, many, many cultures, the majority of which we don't know. We haven't the faintest. And when I was walking home, I also saw a tweet, and I can't verify it. Someone sent it out saying that the woman, or a woman, bumped into this guy. This is what they were saying. Now, as I say, I can't say this is the truth. A woman bumped into him, and he went berserk. He went then on a stabbing spree. And I was thinking, you know, I don't know if it's true or not. This is what I was thinking. I don't know if it's true or not. It could be just gossip. Could be someone trying to go viral on social media. You have people who make things up just to go viral. But I was just thinking about it myself, you know, multiculturalism, many, many different cultures. And with different cultures, you have different moral codes. And I was wondering, for all I know, there could be a culture in the world. And in that culture, if a woman bumps into a man on the street, perhaps the man has the right, you know, to end her life. You know, who's to say? There are so many cultures in the world.
There was the, I believe it was in Finland, might have been Sweden, somewhere up there. And in the wake of the 2015 so-called refugee, so-called crisis, as they started taking in more third world peoples, I'm not sure, actually, it might have been prior to, I don't know, this has been going on for some years now, but in any case, well, for some reason, a load of Somalis was imported to Finland. And they had to be educated that here in Finland, if a woman smiles at you, that does not mean you can rape her. Because apparently, where these guys were from, that is the norm. So, yeah, you're right to wonder about, you know, just exactly what on earth is it that we have, or our traders amongst us have allowed into our midst. Because you're right, although we do live in a globalized world and we have the internet, and you know, we can have so much knowledge at our fingertips, and we can, you know, explore whilst sat on the sofa. The world actually is still full of differences and mysteries and different peoples with different ways of doing things. And even though two really main religions dominate the world, there are still places where people have very different ways of conceiving morality and distinguishing right from wrong. And again, all of these well-educated progressive types who seem to love diversity and their openness and their xenophilia, what is it beyond recipes that you actually know of other cultures? Have you learned their languages? Have you tried to understand their different faiths, religions, conceptions of right and wrong? I mean, Alain de Benoit said that the idea of multiculturalism is actually a bit of a lie, a bit of a misnomer, because we don't have multiculturalism. What's being created by the liberal democratic world order is a global monoculture of multiracial societies. And Ireland is victim to that as well. And it is one of the most recent victims. And the destruction, like I have said, has just been so fast.
There was a tweet I saw this morning, and it was from the National Party, and I thought it kind of got to the nub of the matter in a way. And I don't have it, so I can't tweet it, but I can more or less say what they said. I can paraphrase. It was something along the lines of they were saying shops and businesses are insured, and they can be rebuilt, they can be restocked. But a child's life taken away can never be given back. And that gets back to the idea of the mainstream media just not talking about the victims at all. Instead, they're talking about cement and concrete, glass.
I
Things
saw
of no real
Golden One
importance.
made that point as well in a very good video that he put up today.
Who is that?
The Golden One.
Okay.
Marcus Fallen over in Sweden. So good to see the European solidarity that arises in the wake of these diabolical events. It's always, a bit of a white pill to see. And it's true. Police vehicles can be repaired or, replaced. So can buses and things like that. And that's also worth pointing out to the Irish men and women who are on our side. Let's redirect our righteous anger away from police cars and buses and things like that, and focus on effective ways to remedy this situation. Because you're right, a police car can be replaced. So that's not good enough to just burn a police car. Doesn't really do anything. It's a good expression of righteous anger, but I think we can do better. We need to shine the spotlight on every single NGO and every single politician and every single journalist who has brought us to this point. To the point where toddlers are not safe going to school in Dublin, where a village of 500 or so French people aren't safe celebrating their local festival. This has to stop. So let's get names and addresses. The joke is that everyone in Ireland knows each other. It's a small island, small population. All right. Let's walk down that path. Everyone knows each other. Well then, if you have blood on your hands, we're coming for you. We're coming for you. You will lose your job. You'll be voted out. And then you'll be put on trial. You'll be put on trial for these crimes that you have committed or been complicit in. That day is coming.
You mentioned the European solidarity. I did notice that. And it's strange how quickly things can change. You would have had, I would say British nationalists who wouldn't have been very fond of the Irish. They wouldn't have been fond of us at all 20 years ago, going back. And you see them now on Twitter, and they are, they seem to be getting joy out of seeing the Irish rebelling. And it's kind of like they wish, I don't know, it's kind of like they wish their people could do the same.
Yeah.
And
I have to say, there is so much admiration, and the world is agaze in deep amaze yet again at the Irish. And I can definitely say that, yeah, there's even a sense of envy from people in other European countries or even in the United States. Yeah, the like I said, because the frog was not boiled slowly, because the boiling water was just dumped on this frog, well, the frog is reacting. The Irish are reacting, and it's great to see, and hopefully it will spread throughout Europe. And that's why we have to be not only righteously indignant, but also as wise as serpents. We have to take the right steps. We have to be effective. We have to seize this opportunity. Otherwise, like you said, this will keep happening. And it will. It will. There are too many enemies behind our gates. There are too many traitors who are still letting them in. And you mentioned too, the Irish government is now writing up new hate speech laws to shut us up. So there is much still to fight for. But yeah, it has been incredibly inspirational. Because what else? What is it that we so often see? What is it that we so? What is the norm? The norm is that a European community is rocked by some horrible event, a terrorist attack, a mass stabbing, a mass shooting, in a concert hall, at a Christmas market, in a children's school, during a local festival. And the normal response, the typical response, including by friends and family of the killed on some occasions, is to say, don't look back in anger. It's to have candlelight vigils. It's to say, oh, think of the backlash to the poor terrorist community. Interesting that, Israelis, Jews aren't told this. Jews don't react this way. No, they get to go on social media and clamor for the total destruction, annihilation, the extinction of the entire gene pool of those who took the lives of their children, who crossed over into their territory and committed acts of horrific violence. Again, if they didn't have double standards, they wouldn't have standards at all. And so, it's just great to see that finally there's a European people that's saying, no, we aren't going to sing Don't Look Back in Anger. We aren't going to have a candlelight vigil. We aren't going to say, we're all individuals, have no hate in your heart. No hate, no hate. No. Hate is good. Hate is a very, very good emotion. There are things in this world that deserve our hate.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a powder keg, Ireland at the moment, and I don't see the government backing down, because if they're talking now about hate speech, that means they're not really paying attention, or they don't want to really pay any attention. They want to go ahead. And the thing is, they're bringing in, I would say they've probably brought in 100,000 military-age men, going by all the videos I've seen in the last 2 years. And, Irish people don't know where they're from. They don't know if they have a clean criminal background. They don't know if they've come from prisons abroad. No one really knows. So taking that into account,
when there was the sort of makeshift migrant encampment or whatever it was on Pierce Street, there was a Turk, amongst the riffraff that was harboring in that refugee encampment. There was a Turk wanted on terrorism charges. Do you remember that?
I do, yeah.
I mean, this is madness. And again, what is the benefit to this? What is the every policy, every thing in life has its pros and cons. Okay, what are the pros to this at all? I put it to anyone who is in favor of this open borders and mass migration. Because again, like I say, I don't think that there are very many Irish people who are saying we want, zero immigration from now until all time, and all immigrants are bad. None of that straw man is real. But let's be honest here. This is no longer immigration that we're talking about. This is invasion. The scale is insane. And the type of people who are coming because of this insane scale, because of this free-for-all, the type of people who are coming here, or in France or Italy or Germany or wherever, well, it's very dodgy. Let's just put it that way. So what is the benefit to this? So when you ask that question, I guess you're left with the answer. Well, incompetence doesn't explain it. And misguided benevolence, misguided goodwill really doesn't explain it anymore. There's been too many instances of so-called refugees murdering the people who rescued them. I mean, what kind of genuine refugee rapes and murders the people who gave him refuge? So if it's no longer explained by incompetence, and if it's no longer explained by misguided good intentions, well, we're only left with malevolence. So the answer is, there are no benefits to this. We are ruled by people who hate us, and they're toadies.
Yep. And, they have their useful idiots. They give them lots of money to house these military-age men. So you have Gumby Irish enriching themselves, absolute traitors to their own people, only loyal to the shekel. And just to say, Pox, was something else. I wanted to say that I saw various photos from last night that were taken, and there was one of so you've got the riot police. I would just call them military police because they look like the military, and they've got their helmets on and their visors and their batons, but there was one Garda, and he I don't know why he didn't have a helmet on, but instead of the helmet he had a rag wrapped around his mouth and his nose. Yeah, and I was looking at it, and it just, the symbolism of it, he didn't look like a policeman. He actually looked like one of the protesters, and I just thought that was very, very strange to look at. That he looked more like a vigilante than a representative of the state.
Yeah, there's been some very interesting photos and videos from last night. It's funny, they keep talking, and again, the insults to the Irish people, to the Dubliners who took to the streets. They're just a bunch of rioters and looters taking advantage of this horrible event to steal shoes from Foot Locker. But from what I've seen, the looters were Africans. I've seen 2 videos and 2 pictures, and in the 2 videos and in the 2 pictures of different people, the people who are going in and then coming out full of stuff with their hands full of stuff are black. So that's something to think about. And Ireland's treacherous security forces, the military. I remember, this has been the year of the Irish. This has been the year of Ireland. And since the protests that started in Eastwall, there's been so much, all across the country. And I remember someone was recording on their mobile phone. They went to, I think, like a barracks or some place like that was being used to house suspicious foreign men, and like the soldiers at this location, well, they start getting in the face of this citizen recording, and he's asking, what's going on over here? Who are these people, and why can't I film? And at one point, one of the soldiers says, like, fuck you. And he says, you're an immigrant too. I don't know if you ever saw this little video.
I did.
Yeah.
I think it was Philip Toyer. I'm not sure, but I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, that's just incredible,
Sorry,
Pox. I have to say, though, history is rhyming.
Just to confirm, when I said I think it was Philip Dwyer, I mean the guy who was doing journalism, not the obnoxious soldier.
Right. Yeah. Philip Dwyer is a citizen journalist, I guess we would say. I don't know the name of the soldier who had told him to fuck off and said, "What are you doing here?" And then even said, "You're an immigrant too," which is nonsense. But I would say, I've been expressing my anger and frustration at the Irish political class and the Irish progressives and the hypocrites who supported BLM riots, and they've got a Palestinian flag in their bio, etc. But history rhymes, and I wrote about this on the anniversary of the Easter Rising this year. It's worth remembering that, you know, on Easter in 1916, most Dubliners and most Irish people in general not only did not support the rebels, but they kind of despised them. They kind of scorned them, resented them. And, you know, there was many reasons for that. Some of the reasons that they had at that time are similar to the reasons that the Irish political class and the Irish progressives have today. Upholding the status quo, wanting to uphold the status quo because it benefits them, as you mentioned. There are people getting rich off this. You know, ideological reasons, similar reasons across the years. And, you know, so often the smug shitlib will say that they are on the right side of history. And I would just counter, no, you're not, actually. Because no one remembers the names of the cowards, and no one remembers the names of the people who cast scorn at the 1916 rebels. But everyone remembers the names of the rebels. They have become national icons and heroes, and everyone lives in the wake of their deeds. So no, you're not on the right side of history. You're rather on the wrong side here. You're on the side of people who stab children, and you're on the side of people who think a few stabbed children is worth it for the kebab shops.
All right. Pox, I think we'll leave it there. Thanks very much for coming on. And I have just pasted links to your YouTube and Substack into the chat. All links.
I would say don't worry about the YouTube, dear audience. I'm not really active there anymore, but occasionally, I don't know. I can't even say occasionally. I rarely upload anything to there, but do check me out on Substack. I post a few essays and articles there each month. So I appreciate that.
And all links are in the description. So his Twitter as well is there on Odysee. So Pox, thanks very much for coming on. And thanks to those who turned up to listen to it. And until soon.
All right,
Thank
take
you.
care.